And we're live. Okay. So before we went on our bathroom break, we started getting into our Core 4 practice assignment, where we are kind of interacting, I'll say, with Chapter 3, Lesson 1 of the science textbook. And the question I left you with as part of a Think, Pair, Share was this. We learned that environmental issues, as far as our science textbook are concerned, and I should have you write this down because I don't think we did this before. And actually, let me take a step back. Somebody tell me, what's one of the big environmental issues that we just learned about before we even have started the actual reading?
Pollution to the air.
Yeah, so let me write this down, and you're going to write down as well. Major environmental issues. Include. So notice here's my sentence, and you also with your pen or pencil in hand should be writing this down. Major environmental issues include, and then I have this colon. The colon always indicates that there will be a list of things that follow. I think this is a good segue because your lesson in language arts this week is you're going to learn about different punctuation marks outside of the period and question mark in that, and we're actually going to use them. So Kendall just helped us out. I'm going to begin making my list of environmental issues. Kendall, one more time, an environmental issue that we've learned about already is
Air pollution.
Pollution in general, right? Pollution. Salvador, what's another one of the environmental issues that we learned about? And you can look right in your science book where you see the key on page 87. Tyree's going to help you out. Resource use. And as we write down resource use, let's come over here and look at this board. I've helped us out and I've clarified for us what resource means. A resource is a tool. It's something that you can use, right? Something that you could use. So we need to also begin thinking something that can be used. A tool, you don't remember it, don't forget you have to raise your hand. So when we're talking about the environment, what kinds of natural tools are there in the environment that we use on an everyday basis? It's more of a rhetorical question that I want you to begin thinking about. Because we're saying, and let me help you connect the dots, we're saying that some of the major environmental issues that plague the world are, number one, pollution, number two, resource use. Resource use is an environmental issue, guys?
Yes.
Okay. What's the third environmental issue?
Population growth.
Population growth is the third issue. All right. Which brings us back to, and for those of you that I did not call on, you'll have an opportunity to speak in just a moment. But like I said, population growth brings us to that Think, Pair, Share that we just did a moment ago. And I posed this question for you to think about. You had an opportunity to talk with your elbow partners. Now we'll talk whole group. So here was the question. Our science textbook says that population growth, meaning the population size increasing, people having more babies, more people living on Earth, is an environmental issue. How can population growth, or the size of a population increasing, pose an environmental problem? And so we've had time to think and pair and share with our elbow partners, and now we'll share our ideas as a whole group. I see that Caleb and Kendall and Tamia would like to share, so I'm going to go in that order.
If the population growth is an environmental issue because since there are more offsprings growing in the population, they would have to make more homes, which is affecting the environment, which means there are less trees and less oxygen in the air.
Okay, so that's how it can be an environmental issue. Yes, Kendall?
Since there's more people having more babies and stuff, it'll be a problem because like as they get older, it'll be more people using more electricity, more gas,
Ooh,
and like Kayla said, they'll be chopping down more trees. For,
exactly. I heard Kendall say something very key. As the population grows, we're using more electricity. What else did you say? More gas, more oil. Are those considered natural resources? Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, electricity and gas, oil are both natural resources. So what I'm hearing so far is that the more people there are on Earth, it puts more pressure on the natural resources. We use more of the natural resources, correct?
Yes.
All right, what did you say?
There might not be enough food.
Ah, okay, that's another big idea to think about. So as the population increases, we're still placing a demand on the natural resources because the more people there are,
The more
they all have appetites and they all have to eat, right? All right, so are we beginning to see how population growth or the amount of people on Earth could be an environmental issue?
Yes.
Okay, yes?
Cause like I think I know how dinosaurs was extinct now. Cause like the more people on Earth it is, the more hungrier they go get, and they go start hunting down all animals, and soon they go be extinct.
So you are hypothesizing that population size led to the extinction of dinosaurs because maybe we began hunting them for food and we overhunted, and so we kind of wiped them out. Okay. Let me have you think, pair, share a different topic. Not a different topic, but a different thing to think about. Population growth is an environmental issue. How does the amount of cars that people in the United States alone own, how does that pose an environmental issue? The amount of cars that we own and the types of cars. Let me write this on the board so you can kind of identify with what I'm saying. So, cars, right? SUVs. SUVs are the worst because they're the bigger, the larger cars that consume more gas, that emit more pollution. What's the connection between the amounts of cars that we have and drive this is driven and environmental issues? Now you're thinking, Karen and Sharon, if you don't have somebody right next to you, you may quietly get up and walk. In fact, I don't want a big commotion, but if you'd like to speak with someone different, you may quietly get up and walk around for 30 seconds. I want you to talk about how does the amount of cars that we drive and the size of cars we drive impact the environment.
So I think that the cars impact the environment because
The bigger the cars are, the more air pollution and more gas they consume.
trucks like
Because
they
you know
pull
how
the
trucks
horn
are,
on
they
the
have
truck
like the
and
little
then
tailgate
the
thing.
black smoke coming out the engine and smoke going
Yeah.
through the air.
And like that's pollution. That's causing more air pollution.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's a different topic, but it might cause animals. When did we start talking about that?
But also, when I'm driving,
Well, kids, sometimes we have to watch it. Who is savage? Air pollution decrease population growth.
Yeah, but what about look, ain't like you said say like you see the driver was driving. It was one time I saw like he was driving, it was like the oil, the gas leaking from the engine and it was still all over the place. But what does that
So that's how the many
but they also cause population growth too because I read about trees like
Okay.
you got the wrong way. They take up the gas and stuff, and then they like go down to the root, and then like the tree doesn't grow. Like they
us talking.
Okay, we're gonna bring this back whole group again. The question was this: how? You don't have to move. You can stay where you are. How does a greater reliance on vehicles impact the environment? In other words, how population size is increasing. We don't want to walk to where we need to go to. In some cases, it's not possible. How does the fact that we rely more heavily on vehicles like cars and SUVs and even trucks, how does that impact the environment? And your group said what? 1 and then 2.
Our group said like when like big trucks are like driving and they like pull the horn, like black smoke come out and like carbon dioxide like go into the sky and then like it create like a little blanket over the earth and then when the sun rays come down they can't come back up.
Okay, so what you're speaking of is global warming, right?
Yeah.
Big trucks releasing plumes of carbon dioxide smoke get released into the atmosphere. Way up where the sun is, they begin wearing away, kind of erasing the ozone layer, and as the ozone layer gets erased or worn away, the sun, help them guys, the sun begins to penetrate or beat down on the earth more intensely, right?
Yeah.
And so then that's a whole other conversation segue that we can go into, what happens because of global warming. But what did you want to add?
Like Isaiah said, that the more cars we rely on, the more air pollution comes into the air. Like carbon monoxide comes out of trucks and out of cars and SUVs, but it can also cause a decrease in population growth.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to say that. I heard you ask a good question. What was the question you asked about pollution and decreasing
I
population
asked
size?
that, can air pollution cause a decrease in population?
And what was the response? What did you all hypothesize? Tyreek?
We hypothesized that
So we hypothesized that yes it can cause decrease, but it can also cause population growth. Because I read in this article that trees, when they like take in all of the carbon dioxide, they use it so they can grow bigger.
They use, what do trees use carbon dioxide for? What process? Photosynthesis, to make their own food, and in turn, as they make food, what do they release, Kendall? Well, a little more than air. Oxygen. And we need the oxygen. Really quickly, because then I want to go to this side of the room.
Isn't it also like, can it also decrease
When what? What is the it?
the species when they or the people decrease because if boats are bringing oil from different parts of the world?
I want you to speak up just a little bit because I think you're onto something brilliant, but I can't quite hear you.
That when boats bring oil from different parts of the world, it's weird thing out there. We kill a lot of animals because it gets into the body and it poisons them.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear Ricardo, but he said, can't population growth also decrease population sizes of particular animals? And the example he gave was when these oil liners, these ships that transport oil over the oceans, right? They're carrying the oil, some of it gets spilled. Remember, that's what the whole Dakota pipeline issue was? The Native Americans the Native Americans did not want that pipeline to be ran through their burial ground or the water supply because of the impact it could have on species, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Think about if you get too much oil in your hair, it makes it horrible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now imagine that problem is like on level 10. If that oil is ingested by animals, they can't thrive, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. This side. What did we discuss over here? Samia? Shh, let's be good listeners. Turn your attention this way. carbon dioxide pollution. Exactly. Yes, so you need more and more, and you're steadily increasing your pollution output. This is another illustration, and I only chose one just to really quickly show. But here's a further illustration that explains how populations of people become a problem for the environment, for lack of better words. The species dispersal posters that we did. This particular one is showing you how human beings go into rainforests in particular and cut the forest down, right? They cut down the trees, which means less oxygen because they're not producing oxygen. It also means more carbon in the air and the atmosphere because the trees aren't absorbing the carbon. And it also means that animals are being displaced. Displaced means they have nowhere to go, and so they're dispersing. They're going to different areas. And maybe the new areas they go to aren't good habitats because maybe they don't provide what they need, right? Yeah. All right, so we see this big overlapping web of people and resource use and how it affects the environment. Yes, okay. Let's go ahead and begin reading then. I'm reading some with you, and you are reading some on your own. Let me just get back to the agenda. I'm reading page 87 aloud with you. On your own, you're reading page 89. I'm sorry, 88 and 89. When everybody is done with 88 and 89, at least the people in your table section, then you begin working more on your core 4 practice. So this is what that looks like. When you're done reading the 2 pages, you're going to think about at least one more question. Think about one thing that needs to be clarified, and then you're going to summarize. Give me one main idea sentence that tells me what you learned additionally about these environmental risks, right? Raise your hand if you have a question about anything I'm asking you to do. Okay, Isaiah.
Do I supposed to go back to my desk
To read, yes, you can go back to your desk. And then when it's time to work in a small group, if you guys can handle it, I don't mind if you move up and write on your lap and just talk through the ideas with these people. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Okay, so we're all on page 87. Put your finger on the subtitle that says, what are the types of environmental issues? We are always popcorn reading. Absolutely. Daylon, take a walk and get some water. Okay, is your finger on the subtitle? Yes, ma'am. Quickly, what's the question?
How come when you say we popcorn, you very hard? That's what I'm saying.
Popcorn reading is kind of an indicator to you to be on task and target and prepared. That's always the name of the game. Be prepared to be called on, even if I don't get a chance to call on you. Typically, I call on people to popcorn them when I know that they're not paying attention, okay? But let's keep those kinds of questions for later, and let's dig into the lesson so we don't get behind. All right. Yesterday, we learned something important about subtitles. Who can tell the entire group what we learned about subtitles for Mikkel's benefit? Because he wasn't here yesterday. What did we learn about subtitles? Kayla?
Subtitles will tell you what you're going to learn and then information below it.
Yes, good job. So as we look at the subtitle on page 87 that says, what are the types of environmental issues? We can easily tell, and I'm just getting to that. We can easily tell that the information we'll find under that subtitle is going to tell us all about the different types of environmental issues. This is helpful to us because when we're trying to locate information, the subtitles act like signs. Have you guys ever been driving with your parents in a car and they need to get to a particular location and they're looking at the signs, the street signs to tell them where to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, like when you drive out here, you see Oak Street, you see 25th Street, you see Washington Street. Those signs help to direct you. They help to get you to where you need to go, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Subtitles do the same thing. They direct you to where, John Tavius, you can find particular information. If I'm skimming through this lesson and I want to find the precise 3 types of environmental issues that affect the environment, I know that I can look at these subtitles to direct me to where I can find the information. Turn and talk to your neighbor and tell them in 5 or 6 words what I just said.
She said the subtitles are, there are many titles that show
She said like subtitles like something that like describes the whole like.
No, I said subtitles are like signs and they direct you to important information. Good job, son.
It was close.
You were close.
The issue, like this is mostly the issue. This would be about population growth. This will describe what we learned.
Good job. Okay, we're on page 87. I'm reading this to you. For the next 2 pages, you're on your own, reading independently, and then back in a group to digest what you've read. All right, here is a riddle for you. That's where I'm at. Please be there too. Here is a riddle for you. Here's a riddle for you. Put your finger there. Are you ready for this riddle?
Yes, ma'am.
Here's a riddle for you. What place is bigger than the United States and Mexico combined? I'm going to pause because that's what you do as fluent readers. This place is covered with ice more than 2 kilometers thick. It is a habitat for many animals and is a source of oil, coal, and iron. Stumped? The answer is what?
Antarctica.
Antarctica. Some people think of Antarctica as a useless, icy wasteland, but there are unique wildlife habitats in Antarctica. There are also valuable materials beneath its thick ice. What is the best use of Antarctica? Many people want access to its rich deposits of minerals and oil. Others worry that mining will harm its delicate ecosystem. Turn and talk to the person beside you. What does it mean to mine? Good. So I heard us clarifying that mining means to dig, and when we're digging for those important minerals and resources and oils and that kind of thing. Okay, we're back to paragraph 2 on page 87. So others worry that mining will harm its delicate ecosystem. Some people propose building hotels, parks, and ski resorts. Others think that Antarctica should remain undeveloped, meaning not built on. Who should decide Antarctica's fate? In 1998, 26 nations agreed to ban mining and oil exploration in Antarctica for at least 50 years. As resources become more and more scarce elsewhere in the world, scarce means become little, meaning we're dwindling down the resources. So as resources become more scarce elsewhere in the world, the debate will surely continue. Antarctica's future is just one environmental issue that people face today. Again, here's the key. Environmental issues fall into 3 general categories: population growth, resource use, and pollution. Because these 3 types of issues are interconnected, meaning they're linked together, they are very difficult to study and resolve, to find solutions to. All right, you're going to continue. You're going to turn to page 88. and 89, and you will continue reading. No, you read independently. You read independently, and then when everybody's done, you come back together. Although I'll ask Kendall, Tyreek, Isaiah, and John Tavius to come on back in the back with me. Pull your chair over. Everybody else continue quietly reading. Come, very quickly.
Yes, ma'am.
We need paper.
Just bring it up, please, quickly. John Tavius, up. You should already be walking. Thank you. I'm gonna have you start. And I'll call on somebody else. Right here, Tyreek. So John Tavius just read right over here. And we'll just continue, and John Tavius will catch up. Thank you for turning that chair around. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Population growth. And again, we recognize that population growth is an environmental issue. You ready?
Yes.
Go.
The human population grew very slowly. Around that time, the humans of medication,
you can even look at the closer connection. Have you ever fought with a sibling, a father, or somebody over the last waffle, over the last chicken, right? So we found a good way to connect the game. Okay, I get it. All right, let's look at this caption. So it says everyday natural resources. You use natural resources many times a day without even realizing it. Beach uses land, water, fuel, and many other resources. We're not gonna do this on the journal, but it's just getting you to realize. Usually you go to the beach, you're using natural resources. You're going there swimming in water. You're using natural resources. You're using land. You're using oil to drive your car, right? Okay, can I read? Pollution. That maybe should help us read on this. Guys, what's the difference between a point source and a point? Can you look at who defines a point source? Okay, and then the point source is? Specific. So you know where the, well, so you know where the pollution is coming from. What is a natural resource? What is pollution? What is it? Contamination of earth, water, and we already know population growth. 444? Okay, you can start writing down one more time. Okay, guys, as I was reading with the boys in the back, I had some wonderful ideas come to mind. As I have shared with you in the past, I used to work for a wonderful governmental agency called the Environmental Protection Agency. It is the job of the Environmental Protection Agency to protect natural resources like land and water and air, right? So we're going to explore the Environmental Protection Agency. Maybe we can even take a field trip down there. So we're going to explore it through some videos. But it led me to think, because Caleb's mom wants a head start on supplies for experiments. Friday, we're going to get into the science lab, and all I'm going to need you to bring is a cup. We have the water upstairs, and some pollutants. You read about pollutants, right? Yes, we just read about pollutants. We'll review in just a second. So we read about pollutants. There are things that make water dirty. There are things that make the air dirty, like carbon, like trash, like garbage, like chemical runoff into the water bodies, which you all just read about, right? So for Friday's experiment, we're going to bring in a cup, a fairly big cup. We have water upstairs. We're going to bring in some pollutants, like some garbage, right, that we can dirty water with. And we're going to experiment with ways to clean up the water, right? I think we discussed this briefly earlier in the school year. Mikhail, how do you clean water? It's more of a rhetorical question, but how does the government, the Environmental Protection Agency's major job is to make sure Vanity and Mia and Latavia and Micaiah and Isaiah and all of us have clean water. Well, how do you clean water once it gets dirty? I'm going to allow one person to make a guess, because that's going to be the subject of Friday's experiment. How do you clean water?
You clean water, so like, you got.
Because I've let you speak a lot, and you've done a wonderful job. She raised her hand, and she's come up with a pretty good idea, right? How do you boil water? How do you clean water? And Charity said, ding, ding, ding. I don't know that that's the answer. She has said that you clean water by boiling it, right?
Yes.
But how do you clean the water in Lake Michigan? How we get all the water from Lake Michigan and boil it? And why am I using Lake Michigan as an example?
Because at first they had like soap water and all that stuff. So it's like.
Not in Lake Michigan.
No, I want to talk about that. I was talking like in theory, like the ocean or something. But like we get fresh water, like, cause like if they put like water in a little thing, and then they make it so small that like only water could go through.
I think I hear you saying what Isaiah said a minute ago. You purify it.
Yeah.
But that's what we're going to play around with on Friday. So the next step that you should be working on is your Core 4 practice. And then you need to be heading to your homework notebook and Google Classroom to copy down homework very quickly. Wait, guys, time out. There's one question that we could all benefit from. Can pollutants be like dirt? Yes, definitely. Listen, guys, let's make this completely relatable, okay? In real life, you use or consume water in your home, right? You wash your hands, and you wash dirt, food, germs off of your hands, right? And it goes down the drain, correct? You use the restroom, you flush the toilet, that goes down the drain, right?
Yes.
There's tissue and other things in the water, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We cook food in boiling water, and then we take the food and we pour the excess water down the drain, right?
Yep.
You take a shower, you wash your hair. That dirty water goes down the drain. Somebody's job is to clean that stuff out of the water. So when you think about contaminants or pollutants to put in the water when we experiment with this on Friday, you can bring a small amount of soap, you can bring dirt, you can bring food, you can bring a little bit of tissue, you can bring some salt, you can bring anything that we can contaminate or pollute a cup of water with, because then again, remember our objective is to find ways to clean it out. You can even bring in a tiny amount of oil, because we all cook with oil, right? And here's something to think about, because a moment ago, Mikhail or Ricardo brought this up. Those oil rigs that transport oil from one country to the next that carry oil, what happens when it spills into your water supply? Somebody has to clean it. How do you remove oil from water? Can you wipe it out?
No.
Okay, one more question and then we have to go on.
So, I think you clean it because, like,
Let's listen.
I think you clean it because, like, they have this little, like, pipeline, and then, like, they make it so, they make it big enough so, like, the all, like, I don't know how to, like, put it in words that I even understand, but, like, they probably have a pipeline they can, like, take out all of the stuff.
Okay, I've solidified it in my mind. I'm going to reach out. You put your hands down. I'm sorry, guys. I have to go on. Otherwise, our wonderful discussion could continue for hours and hours. I'm going to reach out, sit up please, to the connections that I still have at the Environmental Protection Agency. Normally, one day in April, they have an education outreach day. And so I'm going to see if we can go down there. There are also things called wastewater treatment plants right around us that we can go and visit. So I'm going to work on putting together a field trip to do that. In the time being, though, I want you, if you're not on 88 and 89, I want you to get to those 2 pages, because I want to highlight for you or underscore some of the main ideas. Close the Chromebook that should be inside of your summary. I said go, let me clarify, I said go to 88 and 89, because now I'm going to clarify for you, 88 and 89, some of the important main ideas that should now be in your summary. So just like I'm pulling this out, you want to pull this out as well. And remembering what we learned about text features yesterday, bold print, words that are written in bold print, let me know that they're important, right? Right, guys? Yes. We should be able to find a main idea in every heading on page 88 and 89, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to zero in on the words written underneath the headings, and I'm going to look for bold printed words, which will tell me that those words are important to the topic of that heading. Here's what I mean by that. For your Core 4 practice, summarizing is an important part of Core 4. It asks you to summarize, meaning to tell, and I'll slow down. Part of Core 4 says, okay, after you've thought about some of the things that you've read, you've questioned, you've clarified, now you have to summarize. In your own words, you have to tell what is important from this lesson. In order to help me figure out what's important from the lesson, I'm going to look under each of these headings, and I'm going to find words that are written in dark print. If they're written in dark print, I know that they're important. And if they're important to the topic or the subject of the heading. So let's start with population growth. Do you see anything highlighted under population growth? No, but normally, and we learned this already, you can find the main idea, and I don't want you to write anything down, I'm just pointing you to where you can find the information. We've learned that when you want to look for a main idea, you can often find it in the first or last sentence of any paragraph, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So when I look at the first sentence in paragraph 2, underneath population growth, I see this sentence. And I believe that it's the main idea. Read it with me quietly as I read it aloud. When a population grows, the demand for resources also grows. Okay? So when I'm trying to think about what's important to know about population growth, I think that sentence summarizes what's important. Okay, if I go down to resource use, I see natural resource written in bold print and also highlighted. So I know it's important to that heading, right? or the topic within that heading. Here's what it says. So I have to look at this highlighted word, and then I need to follow it back up to find the sentence in front of it. And here's what it says. Anything that occurs naturally in the environment and is used by people is called a natural resource. Natural resources include trees, water, oil, coal, and other things. Are those sentences important to resource use?
Yes.
Absolutely. Should that go in your summary of main ideas? Absolutely. Now, when I go over to pollution, I see some other words that are written in bold print and that are highlighted yellow. The first one says pollution. If I find the sentence in front of that, it says this. The contamination of Earth's land, water, or air is called pollution. Do you think that's something important to summarize?
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm not going to go through the details, guys, but it's also important to summarize the information about point source and a non-point source. Point source means you can identify the source of pollution. Non-point source means there is pollution, but you can't identify where it comes from. For the last 5 minutes of science class, you are writing a summary of the main ideas from Chapter 3, Lesson 1, and you will begin copying down the science homework after you copy down the main ideas. Some of us are looking tired, some are looking glossy-eyed, some of us are looking overwhelmed. Guys, you have to keep up, okay? Turn our video off, sit up please.